the summit of the most feared climb in the Tour de France, the finish at Alpe d'Huez. We're standing here at the village of Huez, which comes just 2 miles from the top of the mountain today. It's 2 miles to the top, and it's already 7 miles from the bottom in the village of Bourg d'Oisans, where the last climb starts. This is a mountain steeped in Tour de France tradition. Greg LeMond, will he try to attack his own teammate, Ronan Pensek? Or indeed, will Pensek live up to the occasion of wearing yellow and ride well today himself? And what about the outsiders who are doing well? Claudio Chiappucci of Italy and Uwe Ampler of East Germany. Pedro Delgado, he loves this mountain. He always rides well here. And there's our own Robert Miller. He told us the other day he wanted to win a stage in the Alps.
Yeah, I hope I can win one of the stages in the Alps. I'll not see which one. Last year I said I would win one in the Pyrenees, and I won once, I think. Maybe this year it'll be in the Alps, but I don't know which one.
Well, Robert, the choices have run out. You've got to do it today, and I can tell you there's an awful lot of British people on the climb who'll be shouting your name. Let's have a look at the route. It starts at Saint-Gervais and it goes 182.5 kilometres to Alpe d'Huez. Now look at this. They're like shark's teeth, aren't they? The first is the Col de la Madeleine, the highest point of the Tour de France in the Alps this year. Short descent and you're on to the next climb, and they say this is really hard, the Col de Glandon. Down into the valley, you run along to Bourg d'Oisans, you turn left and you see it, Alpe d'Huez.
Well, let's look back first at the first climb, the Col de la Madeleine, which came at 88 kilometres into the course, and without, I'm afraid to say, Martin Early, who has been suffering from tendinitis. He abandoned the race. So too the top Frenchman of 2 years ago, Jean-Francois Bernard, Jesper Skibby of Denmark, and the former champion of France, Eric Caritou. None of those riders came on to this climb, but one rider held a small lead. One, Martinez Olivier from the Benesto team, was on the attack. But once onto the slopes, it wasn't long before he was caught by about 40 riders, which included the majority of the top names. Pensek was here, the world champion Greg LeMond, Raul Alcala of Mexico, Pedro Delgado of Spain, his teammate Miguel Indurain, Stephen Rooks and Sean Kelly, and our own Robert Miller, who frankly was riding with tremendous presence up the climb of the Col de la Madeleine. But one man who was in trouble halfway up was Stephen Roach. He fell back from the front group and for a while was being passed by quite a number of riders before he did seem to find his rhythm and regain some of the lost ground. Over the top, though, the first rider up was Tilly Clavarola, breaking away 500 metres from the summit and going over the top 5 seconds clear of Miguel Indurain and 9 seconds clear of the advanced peloton led by Claude Coquillon, the champion of Belgium there in that black, red and yellow jersey. Stephen Roach, he came over the top in a group of some 6 riders, 2 minutes and 27 seconds behind, so a long chase on the way down, and he'll hope to get back. And after the descent of the Col de la Madeleine, it is Miguel Indurain who's passed Tilly Clavarola, and by the feeding station at 109 kilometres, he led Clavarola by 35 seconds, and indeed taking on food now for still 2 climbs to come. The yellow jersey group was 1 minute and 2 seconds behind, and Steve Bauer and Steve Roach were even further back than that. Onto the Col de Glandon, a climb of 18 kilometres, and Indurain was leading Clavarola by 40 seconds. The board giving the indication here, the yellow jersey group containing Pensek at 1 minute 25 seconds. But then Clavarola found his second wind and joined Indurain midway up the climb. Again, the board indicating here that the yellow jersey group has now fallen back to 2 minutes and 20 seconds. And in that group, the Z team, wearing the yellow hats as leader of this race on the team, doing extremely well today, showing their strength, practically the whole team at the front. And one of the team riders here, which is Eric Boyer, a Frenchman, sharing his drink with Charlie Motte, another Frenchman, but of course on a rival team. 3 kilometres to go on the Glandon. Clavarola attacks again. 34th overall in the race this morning, 15 minutes and 32 seconds behind, and now going for yet another first in the Alps. So the situation over the top, Clavarola amid huge orderly crowd comes over the summit, well clear of Miguel Indurain, who was 1 minute and 10 seconds back and clearly suffering. Giupucci came over in third place and headed over there, the yellow jersey, not too far back. They were 3 minutes and 29 seconds back. And by the time the leader, Thierry Claverola, was halfway down the descent of the Col de Glendon, Stephen Roche was passing underneath the banner over 10 minutes behind him. So tragically, it looks as though Roche's Tour de France, for victory at least, is now over. Robert Miller, by the way, and Sean Kelly are in the main chase group. Well, during the descent, in fact, Indurain, who was indeed suffering, has now been passed by Eduardo Chozas from the Once team, and he continues to lead the chase. This was the site of Indurain in trouble. So the Tour de France is yet to climax, of course, on the climb of Alpe d'Huez. And when you rejoin us after the break, we shall see almost all of the climbs. Well, the situation now has completely changed. Welcome back to the Tour de France. We're on the climb of Alpe d'Huez. In the Valley Road, Claverola was caught by, among others, Pedro Delgado and Greg LeMond. The group has now thinned somewhat on the climb. This is Thierry Claverola, and he's having now to fight back into this race, having led it for most of the day. The three riders ahead of him, Greg LeMond, Gianni Bugno and Pedro Delgado. The devastation behind them, well, it'll be many hours into this evening before we actually know the real damage that has been done. But let me tell you that Raul Alcala is now over 4 minutes behind. So too is Stephen Rooks, and so too is Sean Kelly. Stephen Roche is probably more than 12 minutes behind, and Steve Bauer even further back than that. So Thierry Claverola, somewhere, Paul, has found the strength to come back up towards that leading group. Let's go down the mountain. This is Robert Miller with the yellow jersey of Ronan Pensek, his teammate, on his right shoulder. And Robert Miller doing a superb ride. They're actually riding at around 2 minutes and 10 seconds behind this leading group of four. The situation, as we understand it, Claverola rejoins now the three leaders. So we have Greg LeMond, the world champion and the defending champion. Claverola joins them. Bugno is third here, the man out front who set the pace from the very start on this climb, Pedro Delgado. And this is Rondon from the Benesto team, who decided to try and get up to the front and give Delgado a hand because he's left the group that contains Miller and Pensek. The Benesto boys have been riding really well today.
Well, Rondon was one of the finds of the Tour de France a couple of years ago when he used to set the pace on the front of the bunch for Delgado, and Delgado at certain times had to tell him to slow down a little bit.
Well, I wonder if he can catch up, because Delgado would be really loving to be up there now, because with two teammates from the same team, they can start the old 1-2 of attacking and try and draw the sting of the others.
Now you see as these attacks are starting to go down, Robert Miller isn't responding to any of them. All he's thinking about is keeping Ronan Pensek in that yellow jersey, and he's just going to keep him at a nice steady pace so he doesn't put him into the red zone, as they call it. Make sure that he's nice and smoothly taken round the corners and make sure that he doesn't lose too much time.
Well, the two riders going ahead there were Eric Breukink and Fabio Parra, who've gone clear. Miller playing the part of the faithful lieutenant and staying with the yellow jersey, which is obviously his job today. And you can just see how strong this Z team is, with so many good riders up near the front. Roger Leger, the manager, must be delighted with the way this team has ridden today. If all goes well, he should still have the yellow jersey on Pensek's shoulders. And if it doesn't go well, it should switch to Greg LeMond, who immediately counters the attack there of Thierry Claverola. There's the finish, as far as you can see, and over to the right. That is the end of the climb today. And the Belgian flag is flying. Well, Claudio Coquillon is in the next group. But Thierry Claverola, where is this man finding his efforts from today? He destroyed Miguel Indurain out on the big climbs. Now he's trying to rid himself of three real big names in the Tour de France this year. The winner of the Tour de France, Greg LeMond, and the world champion. The winner of the Tour de France 2 years ago, Pedro Delgado, and the winner of the Tour of Italy, and second in the World Cup at the moment, Gianni Bugno. And when you compare Thierry Claverola to those three, Paul, he really hasn't done so much.
Well, he hasn't really. What you would call a small engine. but he's doing a fantastic ride this year in the Tour de France, especially in the Alps. It's amazing that he's come back to take the revenge of what happened to him last year when he crashed out of the Tour de France with a problem. And the attacks are going. There's Gianni Bugno having a go there, straight away followed by Greg LeMond. It looks as if Delgado's done an awful lot of work here because he's struggling to respond to that attack. He's coming back again, but maybe it'll give him a little bit of a break, the fact that he's been doing all the work and these other riders will now try and do a little bit of work.
There's Eric Breukink, who's trying to bridge the gap up towards the leaders. Situation at the moment, the 4 leaders we've seen, Eduardo Chozas, shelled out by them, is at 30 seconds. Rondon is coming up very quickly. He's now only 35 seconds back. And Eric Breukink, we've just seen, he is 40 seconds back with Para. The Miller group is only 45 seconds behind the 4 leaders. So this race could come together, you know, almost on the Alp itself. This is going to go down as one of the best climbs we've seen.
Well, it's amazing the recovery that Ronan Poncec has made, because at the bottom of the climb they were over 2 minutes behind this group, and Robert Miller is just nursing him up there, nursing him back to this front group, and it could be one of the ends of it could be the end for Delgado, because he hasn't managed to bring back any of the time that he's behind Ronan Poncec at the moment.
Breukink is coming up very, very quickly. He's found his second wind, and here he comes. So Eric Breukink, because the PDM team had 4 riders in with a strike at the base, and all of a sudden the acceleration by Delgado, and they all lost ground. Raul Alcala is the big shock defeat today. He's down the mountain somewhere with Sean Kelly. But look at that. Now Breukink is up here. Now there are 5 in front.
Well, Breukink must have come straight past Rondon, the teammate of Pedro Delgado there, and he's come straight up to this front group, and as soon as he gets there, he goes straight into the lead.
This is the best we've ever seen Eric Breukink ride in the Tour de France. And when he joined the PDM team this year, Jerry Knetterman said he could give him the confidence he required because he was certain he had the ability to win the Tour. And here comes Rondon, not quite as fluid as Breukink. He's taken longer. In fact, Rondon has been passed by Breukink, but he's still coming up to swell this group to 6. What a battle. And next, I think we're going to see Miller, who seems to be waving, and he might be trying to catch LeMond's attention because he's bringing up with him the yellow jersey.
Well, Robert Miller, what a job he's done today for Ronan Poncec. He's just cruising along, keeping Poncec out of the wind, nice steady pace. Here's Andy Hampsten, which is one of the best rides Hampsten's done on the Alpe d'Huez. Obviously, this year he hasn't had so much pressure on him because Steve Bauer's been the leader of the team. Bauer disappearing out of the overall standings today.
Now you can see the atmosphere here. You can reach out and touch it because these people have been on the Alp for 2 to 3 days, making sure they have had the positions which many of them traditionally come for and fiercely defend them as well. Up towards the chalets now, but they won't normally have seen a group like this coming up, one of the big select groups in the world of cycling. Gianni Bugno at the back. Andy Hampsten now feeling a new man. He's the leader again of the 7-11 team with the collapse of Steve Bauer today. But because he's come from the back, he's not felt the pressure. He's going up there with Claude Coquillon. And for my money right now, Paul, Bugno looks the best bet.
Yeah, but the big problem here, Frill, is it looks as if Delgado's disappeared from this group. I'm not sure where he's gone. Back there, we're looking down, that's Thierry Claverola, and I can't see, I think now that figure there coming around the corner will probably be Delgado. The acceleration by Breukink must really have hurt Delgado.
I agree, we never saw the demise there of Pedro. And he set the pace, don't forget, all the way up here, and he hasn't managed to crack the spirit of the riders. And now Robert Miller continues to drive this train. There have been up to 40 riders around Miller during the course of the day, and Miller has constantly found the yellow jersey and made sure he stayed in front of him. And slowly the riders have either gone ahead or they've dropped behind. But Miller has never left the side of the man in yellow. 3 kilometres to the summit, and now Coquillon goes.
Well, a fantastic ride in the Tour de France this year by Claude Coquillon. I think the Belgian champion's jersey's really changed him. He was talking towards the start of this year of packing up and finishing racing next year, but I think he's going to change his mind.
This is the section of the Alpe, Paul. You've ridden this a number of times. Is this the hardest spot?
This is actually this 1 kilometre here until you come up to 2 kilometres to go is the hardest part of the Alps, because it's the last part where you don't get any assistance from the crowd. When you get to the top, the last 2 kilometres, you're almost carried along by the crowd. It's a fantastic feeling. Even the pain just seems to go away from you.
Well, you can see the crowd here.
Clavarola's come back up to this group again. He really is playing the yo-yo today. The courage of this man is unbelievable, to get dropped and to come back again to the riders like this, like Bunyo, Le Monde, Eric Breukink, after the ride that he's done today when he's been in the lead for something like 70 miles.
A glimpse there of the Breton flag, and of course Pensec is a Breton. And thanks to Robert Millar, I think, and I hope I'm not being premature, but I think that Pensec will keep his yellow jersey tonight, and he will have deserved it, and I'm quite sure he'll be passing the champagne to Millar. And here's Delgado, and he's been caught and passed indeed by Fabio Para and Rondon. Now Rondon immediately has put the brakes on. He's going to look round and try and link up with Delgado and drag him back into the action. But this is an amazing Tour de France. The favourites are changing day by day. We thought at first Bauer might survive. He's gone. We thought that Raul Alcala would challenge. It seems today he's gone too. We thought Delgado was the star of this race, and now he appears to have cracked. And the Tour is still to go to the Alps, and of course tomorrow the all-important mountain time trial at Villard-de-Lans.
We go back to the front. Breukink accelerates a little bit with Greg LeMond still responding to the attack and getting back into the wheel there. Delgado at the moment is something like 34 seconds behind this group, and it may well be that Fabio Para will bring up Thierry Clavarola back into the leading group again, and Para himself has a revenge to take on the Alpe d'Huez, because he was the rider who attacked a few years ago and was balked by the motorbikes and couldn't carry on with his attack.
Well, Greg LeMond will now be thinking of a victory, that's for sure. A victory to prove to the world that he is back in with a chance. Millar checks on Pensec, asks him how well he is riding, because Robert Millar speaks fluent French. Breukink has been forced to set the pace. Bunyo has done nothing on this climb except follow the wheels. We have to say that Greg has done the same, but Greg has every reason to do this. He does not want this group to go too far away from Ronan Pensec. Continually, Greg keeps checking behind. In fact, he's done this ever since the break established itself. Para still coming up. The chase is on. If Fabio Para gets his chance, once under the kilometre kite, the false flat of Alpe d'Huez will begin soon, when the riders can turn into heavier gears, and then the speed will visibly increase. Greg LeMond will try to win this stage now. It's a difficult finish because you turn into the home straight, and then after all the climbing today, the shallow approach to the line must feel like the fourth mountain of the Tour. Eric Breukink, sensing an attack might come soon, checking to make sure. Those shadows on the road will play an important part, because the riders will watch them. If the shadow moves, they'll move.
Well, 800 metres to go now, and Clavarola and Para are something like 60 or 70 yards behind, so if these riders start to play around before we get to the finish, we could see Clavarola and Para come back.
And look at this, they picked up Coquillon, and that's the riding of Millar. Millar has dragged Pensec past Claude Coquillon. He's not only going to keep him in the yellow jersey, they're going to finish in a good position as well on this climb. Well, they talk about domestiques in the Tour de France, and Millar today has been an outstanding domestique. He's made sure that Pensec has survived this race in yellow, and here comes Clavarola. Where does this man find his strength from? He's been catapulted from out of this race back up to the leaders, as if somebody had shot him forward, and Para is coming as well. I don't think I ever remember a group sprint of so many riders on the top of Alpe d'Huez. Eric Breukink, Bunyo's going to go first. Bunyo gets the inside, LeMond's watching for it. Oh, and LeMond almost overcooks it. The police have to pull in the stomachs there, as Greg LeMond now hits the front. 150 metres to go. Bunyo's got his wheel, but Greg LeMond is sensing he wants this one. The Z team have been the team of the day, and Greg LeMond, the world champion, the Tour defending champion, gets the victory here. Or does he? Oh no, I think Bunyo has snatched it on the line. Greg LeMond will take second place from Bunyo. Breukink is third. What a finish by Gianni Bugno, the first Italian winner on Alpe d'Huez since 1952. He follows the great and the legendary Fausto Coppi. Now we look down the road. The yellow jersey of Ronan Pensek. He knows now that he will keep this jersey to live to fight another day. And the man he will thank is Robert Miller of Scotland. Just ahead, this small group of Rondon. And with him, Andy Hampsten. And Pedro Delgado, I think. Yes, Delgado behind them. So Rondon, Hampsten, Delgado. And just behind Robert Miller at last. And no, that is in fact Quintilian, sorry. Then comes the yellow jersey. And Robert Miller, his job done for the day, trails in just behind Ronan Pensek. What a great day on the Alps.
Well, over the years, we've seen some great days on the Tour de France, but this is going to go down as one of the best. What a great finish it was on Alpe d'Huez. Let's have a look at the result first. A win then for Gianni Bugno, the first Italian to win up here since 1952, just beating by half a length Greg LeMond, Eric Breukink taking third place. Well, we spoke to Greg LeMond soon after the finishing today to ask him just why he didn't help Pedro Delgado on the long climb up here to Alpe d'Huez, and he had the answer.
You got team orders. I wasn't allowed to work, but it didn't really make. In the last climb, it made a lot of difference between Pedro lost 40 seconds, and we probably could have gained minutes over everybody else had I worked and Bugno worked. But everybody was wanting to win the stage and was too afraid to do more work than the other guy.
My goodness me, Greg LeMond's Z team are in a strong position now with Miller and Pensek as backup. Greg LeMond, by the way, dislocated his finger out on the course today when he did fall off out of sight of our cameras. And the team car came alongside and put it back in position, and he took second place. What a marvellous man. Let's have a look at the overall classification. Ronan Pensek tonight actually increased his lead over Claudio Chiappucci, but the riders who really scored, Greg LeMond, Breukink, Delgado. Robert Miller, too, moved up dramatically. This has been a great day's racing. Robert Miller, by the way, will tell us the full inside story of today's stage in our rest day programme on Friday. We'll also show you the other inside story, the one the riders don't like, being in the broom wagon in the mountains. Sadly, that's where Jean-Francois Bernard and Martin Early finished up today. This has been a